Hello, welcome back to the Dodge Caliber SXT rebuild. This is the one we bought off COPART. So now the fun's really going to begin because this is where we get to start building it up. In the previous videos you've seen us tear it down, you've seen us paint, and now we've got all of the bits that we can actually put it back together and then start putting it on the road. Did want to mention though, we've just moved this into position. The battery was flat. As we've gone to move it, it started making a really horrible ticking noise, and I thought we need to check that out before it blows up and kills us all. So we've torn a little bit down, and the transmission booster was making a horrible noise. So it still had drive, but it honestly sounded like it was a coil pack or something like that was going to blow up. It's not. It's the trans booster. So I've unplugged it, ran it. It's not making the noise, but it needs it. It is there for a reason, so I need a new one. While we're waiting for that, we can still crack on with the other stuff. We've got the bumper ready, we've got the wing ready, I've got a strut here. So in this video, we're going to put all of those bits and pieces back on. I hope you join us for it. It's going to be fun. Intro scene.
While Dan's off doing whatever Dan's doing, he has given me the sill to fix. He should not be given body filler, that's number one. So I'm going to go over this, I'm going to smooth it all down with a sander. So I do actually have a lovely little bit of kit here, so I'm going to be quite careful because it is very powerful. I'm going to go over that, sand that down, and then I'm going to just make sure it's nice and smooth with a little bit of P180, so that'll be quite nice. It'll be lovely and smooth. Then I'm going to hit it with a bit of primer, a bit of colour. Not got a lot of that left, so I've got to be careful. And any of the bits underneath, right underneath on this sill, I'm going to just hit it with a little bit of black. So that's what I'm going to get up to right now and fix this dodgy mess. So, I've done the best I can with a bad situation. There is like a little bit of a bump there, but obviously with all the welding and everything and the issues that Dan had trying to weld this sill, because I know he blew a lot of holes in it, that, you know, I think that looks pretty good. It's not that bad. The colour seems to be a pretty good match as well. So it's all lacquered, so we're just waiting for the lacquer to dry now, so I'm not going to shut that door because it is still a little bit wet in there. So now that that's done, we can get on. Dan can change the strut, do the brake pads, and then we're ready to put it back together. P.S. I don't recommend trying to do bodywork or any sort of spraying in the wind because it gets everywhere.
Okay, strut time. Now this is going to be fun. There's a few things bolted to it that don't look like they've ever been off in their entire lifetime. They're not going to want to let go, so they're going to put up a bit of a fight, but still. I'll run through what I've got to do. So I've got to take the anti-roll bar link off. I can take it off at the top, that'll make it easier. Then I've got to take off the brake hose clamp. That's also connected to this side of the shock there. There's two massive bolts that hold the hub on. They're both going to come off. Now they don't look like they're going to want to move, they're quite rusted. Once those bits are off, the shock should be loose. However, I may have to take the track rod end back off, even though it's a brand new one I've just put on, depending where the hub goes. Now I'm hoping I'll get away with it because it looks like the hub literally just connects into the top. Once we're at that point, it's literally going to dangle. I've got three nuts that stick out of the top. Once I undo them, it should drop free, and then I can get to the point where it's life or death, squeezing that spring together. Firstly though, I'm going to check, make sure that my new shock is right, because if it isn't, that's a lot of effort to go through. Yeah, and that's the correct one. So this should be good fun. Let's go for it. Okay, so you're not going to believe this. Last video I didn't check the battery on my phone and my battery died. This time I didn't check how much memory I had free and it didn't record any of me taking the strut off. So what I'll do, is I'll be putting the strut back on, and then just imagine it's in the reverse and there's a lot more screaming and shouting and swearing. But what I want to do is show you, this is the strut that we've just taken off. Now this is where the issue was, this is what I had noticed. So the problem was the wheel was cambering in, and it looked like this had bent. And I said in the first video, although I hadn't worked on a Dodge Caliber before, I'm pretty sure that they're supposed to be straight. Well, I just want to compare that now with my new shock, and I don't know if you can see that clearly on the video, but it is clearly bent. Just around the top of this bit here, should be straight, it's not straight. So that would camber my wheel in, and that's why we've got the new shock in the first place. So, what I'm going to do now is death defying. We've got to compress the spring so that I can take the nut off the top and slide the shock absorber out. Now the scary part on that is compressing such a big spring. It's really, really tight. If you imagine it's taking the whole weight of the car and everything you've got in it, and I've got to compress that down now. Otherwise, if I take the nut off, it will just shoot across the flipping room and take someone out. So I've got to do it as safely as possible. Now, there are three main ways you can do that. At a workshop, they will have like a floor mounted one that you can put in, and you can use a pedal, and it's got guards around it, and they're brilliant. They're the safest ones you can get. If you have access to one of them, definitely use one of them. The next one, which is the kit that I'm going to be using, is more portable but a lot more safer, and it's this contraption here, and you get several cups which fit around the spring. You're going to see how I'm going to use that in a minute. If you can get access to one of these but not a floor mounted one, definitely go for that, because the third option, you might as well be playing Russian roulette. And what that is, are two clamps that you basically wind up one clamp like that. Basically, they're two clamps that clamp one side and you clamp the other, and you wind them up. I have seen them slip so many times. They're so dangerous, but sometimes it's the only way you can do it. When we did the Buick, we had to get the spring compressed, but we had to get it compressed in situ, and we couldn't get any of the other devices on. So we used them clamps. It's scary, but sometimes it's necessary. However, I'm going to opt for this kit. It's a lot safer, and you'll get to see how I use it now.
Are you excited?
Am I excited? Yeah, well, I'm setting it up for you, and then you can do it.
No.
Not too bad. As with everything, if you do it properly and safely, then you've done it properly and safely. Even the light's scared. Oh, another thing. When you use this nut on the bottom to wind it in, don't use an air gun. Yeah, especially if you're using an impact air gun, because it just shakes the flipping spring off, and then ouch time.
Question for you then, because I'm sure people will be interested.
I doubt it. Go on.
Have you ever seen a spring come off one of the compressors, like
Off of one of these?
Yeah.
I've actually had it done to me. I'd not long been in the job, and I'd used the wrong cup. Mostly out of convenience, really. Someone else was using the cup that I wanted, so I just used a larger cup than I needed to, and as I wound it up, it did come off. So yes, I've actually seen it to me. Luckily for me, I was nowhere near it. I have seen it as well, where it has come off and it has hit someone, and it KO'd him, sparked him. So yeah, I have seen it. They do come off with some force. It's crazy.
Would you say that if it was compressed enough and came off, it could go through a window or into a wall?
Oh, easy. Yeah, dead easy. It'll go through any window for sure. Yeah, I mean, I've seen it where people have. We had an apprentice once. When I was an apprentice, we went to a day release school, and instead of taking the 3 nuts off the top, which I'll show you, which didn't make it to the video I've just done, when you take the 3 nuts off the top and the shock falls out, he didn't do that. He took the nut straight off the top here, and then the whole thing just uncoiled on it, and it just went with an absolute bang. It damaged the actual mount on the body where it was, where it all bolts up to, and it did a lot of damage going down as well. There's so much in these springs, it's unreal. So yeah, definitely if you're going to do it, make sure you at least know what you're doing, or you're with someone who knows what they're doing. Yeah, not like me, I ain't got a clue. Right, I need a tool. So what I'm going to do is compress the spring just enough so that this shock absorber goes loose. Once it's loose, I know that the compressor's got enough of the tension that I can undo the nut at the top and just pull the old shock absorber out. It's looking good so far. There you go. So that's now all of the tension off. It's all wound up here between these two cups. So ideally I want to be as quick as possible. Excuse me a second. Now, isn't it? Couple of things I'm going to point out. So at the end there, you heard me with the gun on full, but at the end there I started to have to pump it. And that's because it's an impact wrench, and what actually happens is this part can spin around on the inside, and when the nut is on the end it can grab the whole thing and spin it. So if you do it in pulses, it actually pulls the nut off without spinning the inside. Secondly, when it does come apart, you've got your top mount that comes off this way and the shock comes out that way, as you saw. It's very important that all of the parts of the top mount go back on exactly the way that they came off. I have seen that done as well, where a piece has been missing and later on the shock absorber has actually fell out of the car on a customer. Not a happy customer. So you got to make sure that everything goes back on and in exactly the same places as well. So that's the old one. It's a shame because that's a real good shock as well. It's not even that old. But oh well, crash car, that's what I'm... Oh yes, interlude. So there's a metal hold there that's just holding all of the struts together. They're really easy to get off. You just pretty much clamp them together by hand. And you see that the strut starts to come out. And then, like I say, you've got to build it up exactly the way it was before. Once it's done coming out, you should find it'll go back to how it was. Very important, you get a new nut all the time. You have to change it. And I hope that it's the same size as the one you've just taken off. Okay, I would turn that off, but I kind of need to hold this here because this bottom of the spring needs to sit there and the top of the spring needs to sit there. Now, as I release the tension, you need to make sure that that's where they end up. Just adjust that. Okay. Okay, bit of a struggle. You need a lot of hands. So there's rubber that sits on the bottom, just there, and you need to keep that in place because that sits on the spring sits on that. And then it's the same sort of thing on the top. There's a groove for the top mount as well. You need to hold them in place. We're doing that nut up and keeping the tension on. It's a lot to do. Bear in mind, all of this is going on. We've got thousands of pounds of pressure being held on there. So yeah, not a job for the faint-hearted. But it's on. We've got lots of thread on. The nut's tight. Ready to throw it back on the car. Okay, so I really wanted to show you how to take this strut off. But like I said, my memory overloaded and it all turned off. So what I will say is everything I'm about to do to put this on is the complete reverse of how I took it off. So when I put it up and put the 3 nuts on the top, that's the last thing I did to take it off. You get the gist. So here we go. Okay, so the new strut is in. Like I say, that was a complete reverse of how I took the strut out. But it's all in. All I need to do now is throw the wheel on and hopefully it will now camber right and sit correctly because that strut's now straight. However, I need to do the brakes, so there's no point in throwing the wheel on just to check that, to jack it up and do all of that again. So I'm going to go ahead and change the front brake pads. So I'm going to change the pads in this front caliper. Now what I need to do is to push the piston back. Before I do that, I've taken the cap off of the brake fluid chamber so that the fluid's got one, somewhere to go, and two, it makes it easy to get around the ABS pump. It's quite important. So I'm literally going to get my screwdriver in and I've pushed this caliper back as far as it will go. So now you should see it moves quite easily on the sliders. I'm going to take this nut off next. Oh my good lord, that should not be that tight. Oh, there we go. Oh. Okay, little trick. So if you're changing just the pads and not the disc, then that's more than enough. Just to take the one bolt out of the bottom and then flip your caliper up. Now you can just knock your, oh yeah, what fucking am I going up? Now you can just knock your pads out dead easy and then go ahead and change them. As you can see, these definitely needed doing. Wow, that's so tight. Okay. So sometimes if you find that your pads are really hard to get in on these metal clips, it can be because the rust underneath them can actually lift them up, and then you're going to get in such a game trying to get these pads on. I've seen people actually grind the edges off the pads to try and get them in, when really all they need to do is clip them off, get a screwdriver and remove the rust that's sitting in these hangers. Cool. One side done. So there we have it. As you've seen, we've put the new wing on, we've put the bumper on, and we've fitted that new shock absorber as well. There's a little fettling off of the camera just to make sure everything lined up correctly, like the door line and the hood line, bonnet line, whatever you want to call it. So what's next is we need to wash it all down, compound cut this, and then we're going to polish it, make it shine like the rest of the vehicle. I think Leah did a great job colour matching these parts to the rest of the vehicle. Something that I can't do because I'm slightly colourblind, so really a bonus that she's here. So we're going to crack on with the next steps, make it all shiny and make it all lovely and that. Once we've done all of that and it looked really good, we're going to take it on a road test and make sure that all of those last bits are done and there's nothing else, no other little demons hiding underneath it. Really exciting. We're nearly at the end. Once we've done all the outside, we're going to try and get someone in, an expert in, to do a bit of detailing on the inside, and we'll see how that goes. As for now, we're going to end this video and we'll see you in the next one.